Man, I got my swim trunks and my flippy floppies. By the way, big shout out to Moto Mika, the Dudeski, for rejoining up the memberships. Trying to get back to all those shout outs to all you boys. Have a lot of people joining back in the memberships, a lot of people joining up for the first time. I try to just do one shout out per video, so nonetheless, shout out to Moto Mika, big supporter, big dog, alien mode, super supporter of the channel. Got to give him a shout out for that rejoin. So, this track right here is called Coral Bay, and this is made by a dude named Endo. He's made quite a few custom tracks out there. I think a lot of his bigger custom tracks are the JG MX tracks brought over from MX Sim. I think that's what he's kind of known for here on MX bikes. But yeah, dude, this track right here is pretty insane. We're just going to be reviewing the main, raceable, rideable part of the track. I know there's a bunch of little side parts to this track. It's basically like a huge free ride compound pretty much. It's got enduro, it's got free ride, it's got freestyle jumps on it. It's got basically a full-blown motocross track on it. It's got a lot of different stuff, but we're just going to be reviewing this one, the main course of the track right here. So, yeah, this really reminded me a lot of the uniqueness and just kind of not being scared to go in there and break out of that box a little bit like I used to back in the days with my custom tracks on MX Simulator. This really reminded me of my own custom tracks on MX Sim. Just those crazy, not giving a shit about the track itself, just doing whatever, This is like 10 out of 10 when it comes to uniqueness in that sense and kind of feeling like you're riding on something that you've never really rode on in the game before. I think that's a really, really positive aspect to this track. Of course, there's the Endurocrossy type section, which is basically 3 lanes of Endurocross, and then it goes to this pretty much 5th gear tapped out on a 450 sand surfing for like 4 minutes, and then it circles back around to the Endurocross section again. That's pretty much what this track right here is. And then you've got the freestyle jumps off in the distance. You got this massive city off in the distance. Obviously, you got the coastline. Very cool, just the overall background of this track. Even though this may not be the coolest on track or whatever the hell, it's got some interesting stuff in the background of the track. I don't know if I've ever seen quite this much stuff put into the background on a track before. When I say it's got a full city in the background, I'm not just talking a skybox. I'm talking literally full-blown city in the background. It's got this big bridge that comes over. It's got, there's just like unlimited amounts of random shit on this track, which kind of gives it its charm, it kind of makes it what it is. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, the sand is super deep, and I'm talking super deep. Like you're going to be fifth gear tapped on a 450 and feel like you're barely even moving. So, but nonetheless, you can still get around the track and, yeah, you just kind of get into that 5th gear sand surfing, 4th gear on the 450, and a couple jumps here and there, a little bit of roughness here and there, not overly complicated. You're probably going to run like 4 or 5 total laps on this track and then probably start to get somewhat bored of it just because unless you want to sit there and run around that Endurocross spot of it like 10, 20, 30 times over. It's basically like half of a 3/4 of a full-blown enduro Endurocross track or something like that. So, but yeah, it's kind of just a silly, like, random objects and fucking, random every different kind of dirt bike riding, racing on one track. Like I said, there's this whole free ride area of the track where you got a bunch of free ride jumps and stuff. And, yeah, just a little bit of everything. But I just wanted to come in here and review this track and show it off just because I feel like with MX bikes, there needs to be a lot more of this just, one-of-a-kind uniqueness to the off-track, right? Where it's like some sort of tropical biome design or a snow track or getting a little bit more interesting with the themes to the track. I think really would benefit a lot of the tracks on MX bikes. And this is what I say when I say You can get certain kinds of cool custom tracks on like MX bikes, MX Simulator, and Reflex that you just simply can't get in any of those other like milestone games and those, all these other, motocross games out here that don't have this custom content to it. And this is just another perfect example here with this Coral Bay track. This is just something you would never see in a milestone game. You're never going to see something like this in your standard AAA motocross games that don't have all of this, open, unlimited custom track content to it. They're never going to make stuff like this in a AAA motocross game because they think it's too crazy. They think it's too weird. They think it's, not fitting whatever that kind of game they're trying to make. And this is just a perfect example of how you can get cool, different kind of riding, racing, rideable, different kind of track content that you're just not going to see in those, console motocross games, those console-specific motocross games. This is that really opening up the door for the PC motocross gamer. And I think that really, this is what I mean by, like, if you're not playing these PC motocross games, you don't know what you're missing out on, dog. It's just unlimited with this shit. There's a really cool section on this track where you go actually in this, like, rock tunnel, which is super cool. Even though I don't think you can technically make the terrain tunnel like that, you can put objects down on a track, and I think they've done this on some Reflex custom tracks on PC too, where there's actually like a bit of a, like they create a rock tunnel with objects, and you can literally go inside of that, almost like a cave rock tunnel vibe thing, right? Even though you can't make it with the terrain itself because it's height map based, you can still make these really cool tunnel rock, cave type areas, and really brings the whole track together when it has spots like that on it. Got some cool tropical vibe palm trees, got the sand vibe going. Just kind of a smorgasbord, if you will, of random shit, and it's a fun little track because of it, Definitely a good track to test out your fifth gear wide open skills on a 450. The deep sand is interesting, riding, fifth gear tapped out on a 450 through a sand corner where there's a little bit of deformation. It's definitely an interesting, different way to experience the game that you wouldn't necessarily experience on most other tracks out there. So I think that's something kind of adds to it. I definitely could have got a little more top speed on the gearing of the bike here to give me a little more of that. It almost starts getting into that Baja fucking, super top speed level enduro type riding, even though the quote unquote like motocrossy track of this track, I think is more trying to be like a moto mixed with enduro, like a moto mixed with a hair scramble style track. So yeah, you definitely got those Baja, hair scramble, enduro, all those kind of vibes going. And then obviously, like I say, you got that real Endurocross area, specific area of it where you're crossing over tires and like logs and stuff like that. I do think the log collision specifically is pretty hardcore in this game. I don't know if it's just on this track in particular, this particular log object in the game, but like it, I don't know. I think the log collision could be a little bit smoother than it is. It's almost gets into that jank feeling. Of course, I'm not saying it's terrible, but I think like crossing over the tires and the big the big concrete pipes or whatever the fuck those are. Those and the tires feel like their collision is a little bit more consistent than the log collision. But yeah, if you can kind of snake your way around avoiding ever hitting a log on the Endurocross section, you're going to be a lot better off. Let me just say that. But nonetheless, it's still fun little area. Yeah, this is basically just one of those tracks to go goof around on, I could definitely see this being fun, getting in here with 3 or 4 of your buddies and just free riding the shit out of it. And, kind of like my Fun Island track on MX Sim, you just kind of... It's almost like an entirely different breed of track in these games. You know, it's not just an enduro track. It's not just a free ride track. It's not just a motocross track. It's not just a compound. It's like, I don't even know how you explain it. It's just a fun track. You know what I mean? It's like a fun land track. It's like a theme park style track. That's about the way I would explain this track right here. It's got so many different types of shit on it. You can't even really classify it as any one type of track, right? So that's basically the way I would explain it. But yeah, overall, I mean, I would say, you know, creativity, 10 out of 10, all that kind of uniqueness, biome design, all that shit's 10 out of 10 on that. But obviously you can get a little bit bored riding around fifth gear tapped out on this sort of a design of a track here. And, you know, I mean, it's not necessarily the most engaging track that I've ever rode on MX bikes, but nonetheless, I mean, for what it is, it's definitely something cool and different. So, and the way the ocean and the water looks off in the distance, he captured that really well on this track. That's pretty hard to achieve in these different, you know, motocross game track editors, from at least on MX Sim. It's pretty tough to achieve that, like, perpetual, you know, ocean off in the distance look that's not just a skybox. It's kind of hard to achieve that. So it's cool that he was able to do that here. But yeah, overall, I mean, fuck, I don't know. You could give this track a 7. You could give it a 10. You could give it a 5. Fuck, I don't know. I don't even know what to rate this kind of a track right here. But difficulty, I don't know. You can't even put a difficulty or really a rating to it. It's just, it's one of those fun, kind of crazy, different design tracks that you don't really get this kind of experience anywhere else in the game. It's like a compound on steroids in a way. That's kind of the way you would explain it. It's like a compound, but even more crazy and weird and different. So yeah, either way, I would love to see more tracks like this in MX bikes, and surely we will get some of those in the future. So either way, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. We're popping these videos off every single day. We're going to get those live streams rolling again on top of the everyday uploads as well, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, boys, see you guys on that next one. Later, dudes.